Learning from your failures is crucial. It's not a matter of if you will fail, it's just a matter of how often you will fail and if you learn from your failures. Doing difficult things is crucial. The only way to achieve difficult things is by being willing to fail. If you've stopped failing, sometimes it's just an indication that you've stopped learning. Oftentimes people will say, fail often, fail fast. That's become a very popular saying, especially kind of in the tech space, which I agree with in some way. But Elon Musk was asked about this with his rocket company. And he said, well, I've only got to get one thing wrong for it not to be successful, and I have to get a million things right. So if he fails often and frequently, then he's probably never going to be successful. And he did struggle a lot to get his first couple rockets off the ground, but it's really crucial that you learn from each mistake so that you don't continue to make the same mistake over and over again. Let me share a couple stories about risk-taking and failures. There are some guidelines to keep in mind to help mitigate some of the problems you might run into. When you're younger and you have less responsibilities, you will be able to risk a little bit more. Also, you probably don't have as much, so you may be risking practically everything. But as you get older, you can still risk, but you may mitigate some of those risks because you have other responsibilities. You may have a family or you may have a big team, and it would be irresponsible to put everyone's livelihood at risk just on a hunch. Everyone is taking risk all the time. When you get into the car, you're taking a risk. When you get on a plane, there's always risk in everything that we do. So you just want to mitigate the risk and make sure that you have a high likelihood of success. A lot of people in business will just gamble, and that's not smart. You don't want to just put all your chips on black or red on the roulette table. You want to be thoughtful in what you're doing and make sure that you understand the likelihood of success. Let me give you two different examples of risks that people take, and most of the time they're not even aware that they're taking it. When you're self-employed, it feels like you're taking more risk, but in actuality, you may be taking less risk because you're in control. It really has to do with who's in control. If you're working for yourself or running your own business, you are making the decisions and you are determining the outcomes by the decisions that you make. In contrast, if you work for someone else is going to be making those decisions for you. They're going to be sitting in another city, another state, or maybe just in another office, making decisions about your livelihood and your future when you're not even in the room. Both have risk. You just got to determine what you're most comfortable with. Here are some additional guidelines for taking risk and avoiding failure. Sometimes you'll need to risk everything, but you need to honestly evaluate the likelihood of success. I'm not going to start a rocket company. 100% it's going to fail. You need to honestly evaluate the likelihood of success and failure and know what that would look like. What is it going to take to recover the resources that you spent on that chance, on that risk? How long would it take you to repair the relationships that got damaged during that process? If you lose 50%, then you now have to gain 100% to get back to where you were. So it's important that you closely evaluate and mitigate the risk when you're taking chances. Let me give you a couple examples of failures that I had in my own life. For many years, I ran a painting business that was much smaller and less successful than what I have today. The reason that business was less successful is the following. I did not understand how to learn. I know that many people can learn this in school. However, I did not. It took me much longer to come to this realization. I was waiting for someone else to pick me for their team. I was insecure and I didn't think I had what I needed because of my dyslexia. I was very insecure and I just didn't trust myself. The first time I tried to start a painting business in the state of Colorado, it only lasted 2 months. We had two young guys that were energetic, wanted to get something done, but we just didn't understand how to grow a business and we didn't know how to learn. My first year in Colorado with my new business was much more successful than my previous business ever was. And I was in business for over 14 years. We closed down that business not because it was not making money, but I consider it a failure because of the potential that was there. I never tapped in and fully did the things that I could have done because I just didn't know how to do it, and I didn't understand these principles, and I wasn't able to learn what I needed to learn to apply it to get the results that I needed. We all make failures. What's important is that you learn something from the failures, especially if you're dyslexic or you're struggling with some other type of thing. Similarly, we're all gonna fail. We're all gonna make mistakes. What's important is that you learn something from them. Especially being dyslexic, I was always nervous, self-conscious, insecure, and I didn't want to make a public mistake because then I thought people might think that I'm stupid or just incompetent because of my own insecurity. When I began to understand that it was important for me to learn and I was gonna make mistakes, I began to see very rapid success. Like I said previously, my first year in my new business, applying new principles, was much more successful than my best year in my previous business. So being willing to make mistakes, do difficult things is very important to success.